we say it even in so many words. It's like, why can't you be normal like me? Why can't you just be normal like me? Which is hilarious, because if I'm the standard of normal, God help us all, right? And so, but I remember thinking that very thing about my brother. We were very close in age. And as you remember, you've heard from my story, it was a pretty chaotic upbringing, lots of different marriages, going different places, and some crazy things going on. Like one way that we had a lot of good times together, but one way that we were different was when discipline threatened itself upon us. I would see Dad's hand going for the belt. And I knew, I developed this survival skill where I was able to all of a sudden just turn on the waterworks. I mean, I would cry, I would repent. I knew how to turn it on. I knew how to turn on the apologies. Not my brother. It was like he just had this stick it out. He would even egg it on in my dad. Please, may I have another kind of attitude, this defiance, because he knew, Dad, that's wrong, and I am just going to stand against it. And I would try to teach my brother, my little brother, I would tell him and I would teach him the smarter ways, the better ways that I knew how to deal with things. I was like, I wish you would just be more normal like me and the way that I deal with life. I remember thinking that way about my wife. We met, we couldn't be more different. She came from a stable, functional family. Parents had been married for their whole for their whole marriage. And I came from this unstable, dysfunctional, everybody going every which way kind of family. When we first met, she owned her own business. She was already doing adult type things, and she was already rolling in some income. And I was a student in college. I was poor. I couldn't rub two nickels together. She was from the country. She was the Johnson County Fair Queen. I mean, making me a king of a county in Indiana by marriage. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. But she, and growing up, she was out there in those rural areas, so she was the majority, in her schools. I was kind of more inside the city, and I was actually the minority at our schools and in our city. And so she was this classy gal. She loved ballet, and it was the 80s, and yet her favorite music was musical numbers. And of course I was this long-haired rocker in a band, trying to be U2 along with every other band in the whole world and during the 80s and 90s. And it was cute at first, right? And I even wrote a song for our wedding about our differences. But that first year of marriage was the toughest in all of our marriage because we were so different. And because I was really working overtime trying to teach her and trying to tell her the smarter, the wiser, the better, the more normal ways of doing things in life. Because I was so knowledgeable about it all, right? And so, but I also remember thinking that way about my kids. Love this picture because, we did the Olin Mills thing and we were trying to get them all doing, and this caught them in the middle of a meltdown, and I had to buy the picture because it totally illustrates their different personalities. Zach, the oldest, I've got you all. I've got it all under control, Dad. I've got everything. Mr. Control. And then you got Noah, Mr. Spacey, like, hey, everything's good. Hey, what's going on over there? Kind of kid. And then you've got Miss, drama, like anxiety, like, what's going on? In Grace, That's sometimes cute, but it's like it messes me up because just when I think I've got him figured out, then the next one is actually a challenge. But you're not like the last one. You're different. And so I'm having a hard time in how to parent you. And I would try to tell them and teach them about wiser way to do things and better and cooler, more. Can't you be more normal like me, or at least more normal like the last one? I've thought about it that way about my great grandma now living with us for about a year. At 96, she's got dementia. Luckily for us, it's a happy dementia. Really, just a happy gal. But she cannot remember, and she can't do a lot of basic, just everyday functions of life. And so I have to, and we as a family and we just have to help her and serve her in every room of the house, if you know what I mean, in every area of life. And sometimes that's cute. Sometimes it feels good to serve. Sometimes it feels good to take in family and all that kind of stuff. But it is a real challenge. And I get frustrated, if I'm to be honest, in going, why can't you just know and do just even the most basic normal things that even my kids know how to do? I think that sometimes about my own coworkers, and I work at a church. Why can't you be more normal like me? Feel for you. I feel that way sometimes about my neighbors, classmates, teammates, friendships too. Why can't you be normal like me? I think relationships are complicated because we're all wired so differently from each other. We're just different. The same God that made mountains and valleys and tropics and arctics and plains and plateaus and forests and farmlands, the same God who made 300,000 species of beetles. I mean, he could have stopped at 50, please, 50,000. My goodness. What is going on there? But 1 cubic foot of snow has like 18 million snow crystals, and they're all different, these snowflake things. Each is different. That same God made each one of us and made us different, unique. And I mean, the most glaring, differences sometimes can be men and women. The differences between us are pretty amazing. For instance, I mean, just kind of look down. I mean, at your fingernails, that's what I say. At your fingernails, from our fingertips and our fingernails, we are different from each other. And men and women, we tend to watch different types of movies, like different types of music sometimes. Sometimes we're different verbally. 12,000 more words she has in her, day than I have in mine. And so, at the end of the day, I'm all spent. She's just getting started. And, parents, about this. Your kids are all different from each other. In fact, Proverbs 22:6 says, start children off on the way they should go, and even when they're old, they will not turn from it. Notice there that the way that they should go is different for every child. Different talents, different gifts, different temperaments, different passions. It's one of the reasons that we've figured out over time that with the kids, when they're about high school years, we invest in some career testing type thing. So we kind of figure out what are some of the things that they tend to be wired for. Where are things that they might be able to find a groove and a success in later in life. And so, because a parent's job is really to figure out these uniquenesses and help launch them in their own direction, in the right direction that would be good and would be down their alley. And so the Bible talks a lot about relationships of all kinds. In fact, the most significant discipleship practices that we are called to as Christians are the one another practices. And those are relationships.